Here we have the reagents set up for the transformation of 1-butanol into 1-butyl bromide. So you have the sodium bromide, the water, and I'm going to swirl that and let that start to dissolve. And then to that I'm going to add my 1-butanol. You'll notice, if you look, if I bring this really close, that the butanol and the water are not absolutely soluble. Water saturates very quickly with 1-butanol, so most of it actually is forming a separate layer. The sodium bromide, some of it's dissolved, not all of it, but that'll be all right. I'll use a stirring rod to break up that large chunk some, but we're going to go ahead and move it into our ice bath so we can get it nice and cold before we start the addition of the sulfuric acid. Okay, our round bottom has been sitting for a bit and is now close, if not at room temperature. And I have the reflux apparatus set up here in the hood. I don't have a drying tube because it is in the hood. So notice that we're using the condenser we hadn't used before. Okay, it's the one that looks kind of thin and it's set up vertically, but I've just started the water running through it, and now I'm going to add the round bottom. If the hood won't give me too much complaining. Okay. And I'm going to start pretty high up because here again water is my solvent and it boils at 100 degrees C. And then now time is now 2:40 today, so I'm going to make a note of that, and then just before 4 o'clock I'll be ready to take it off. Here again I'm going to give it the hour 15 because the heating mantle isn't hot, and so I want to go to the longer side of the time frame indicated. So from 2:40 to 3:40 would be an hour, but then another 15 minutes just to make sure that gets hot to the point of refluxing. Alright, while we have our N-butyl bromide cooking, I'm going to prepare T-pentyl chloride just in my separatory funnel. Okay, already pre-measured the T-pentanol and some concentrated sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid. Now here again, nice heat of solvation, but I'm just going to swirl it for a bit, try and get all that concentration effect dissolved out, and then I'm going to grab a stopper and start shaking. Hard to tell anything's really happening, but it is. The agitation is enough energy to get the water to protonate and then leave, and as soon as that happens, the chloride floating around in the aqueous HCl can attach and form your T-pentyl chloride. Now I'm going to let this separate, and then we'll wash the way the PDF calls for, and we'll see what we get. A wash with distilled water. Notice I'm using a 10 ml graduated. It doesn't have to be exact. That's somewhere 14, 15 mLs. here again, the water aqueous layer should be on the bottom. But as I start, I'm going to add just a little bit of that bottom layer. And then I'm going to check to see, does it bubble or does it add? And right now it's adding, so indeed the aqueous layer is back on the bottom. And here again, because I'm washing again, I'm going to leave it just short of the phase intersection. And now, just a little bit more than 10 mils of some aqueous bicarbonate. Here again, the product might hydrolyze if I take too long at this. So just a couple of shakes and vents and then start letting it separate. We're gonna here again, drain the aqueous layer and then decant the organic layer into something else. The PDF calls to dry it and then transfer it to a round bottom to distill another day. We're not gonna do that because I don't have time. And honestly, you guys have seen a distillation, and hopefully this is pure enough as it is. Now comes the moment of truth when I have to decide what I'm doing about that final little bitty bit of water. I think I'm going to leave it there and dry it out. Alright, so here's my T-pentyl chloride with some drying agent in. Notice how there's quite a bit that is not all clumped together. It's going to sit for a few minutes and then we'll decant it and see what kind of yield we got. Alright, here's our reaction after the reflux. It's been sitting just long enough so that I can comfortably, very quickly handle it. It's still pretty warm. If we let it sit without stirring though, you can see that there's another layer there. I'm going to decant it into the separatory funnel, trying to make sure that I leave the boiling chips in the round bottom. Still pretty warm. Okay, that's most of it, everything. Now I just measured out about 14 mils of cold sulfuric. Before we do that, and here again with more aqueous layers to come, I'm going to leave just a little bit. Now the rest of the cold sulfuric. And we're going to wash it real quick. And we're going to give this a few minutes because the layers are going to take a little bit longer to separate.